everybody, I hope you're doing good. Today we're going to do a garden tour. So it's been a minute. So it's actually been a while since I posted a video. Life just got busy and then whoop, there went a month. So we're going to go ahead and do this garden tour, and then I'll update you on all of the crafts and stuff that I've been working on that we're going to do tutorials for on here as well. So the raised beds, they have been going pretty crazy. I just did clean out a lot of the weeds and do a big harvest. So I'll give you the rundown of that as well. So we have rosemary here. I trimmed that back, and then we have some echinacea. A lot of this is looking pretty raggedy. These have just been left on here instead of me harvesting them, which I have enough to where I'm really not worried about getting every single one of these. So I'm just going to leave these on here and let them go to seed and fully develop, and then I'll come back and cut them off once they're dried. So whenever you are harvesting your echinacea, you do want to kind of have it more of like the younger flowers, the ones that look like this. This is a great example. Or that one over there. But once they start losing the color in their leaves, it's not optimum quality to harvest. And then back up a little bit, you can see I've got a little patch of marigolds that filled in really nicely. These actually will spill over as well. So I really love having these in the raised beds. And here we just have like some grass that I need to pull out, and then there's a sage plant and some more marigolds that are mixed in there. So here I had a patch of lemongrass that I just came through and harvested. And then we have more echinacea that's coming up. And then back over there, there's sage, all of the marigolds. And these are dwarf bolero marigolds, by the way. They are a French marigold variety. And they do have a really strong smell, so they're great for pest prevention. Back here, I had a cucumber that was mixed in at the beginning of the season. I'm pretty sure it just got choked out in there. So I will say it was a question of whether cucumbers and marigolds would make a pretty good combination. When you have a whole patch of marigolds, I would say no, don't put the cucumber in the middle. And then here we have dill. I just did come through and cut this, but it was so tall. It had to be like 7 feet tall. And you'll see, I'll show you guys all of the herbs that I collected. I have them drying on a table. Then more marigolds, some lavender. So I did have, here we go. So that is a Roselle hibiscus. It's pretty small, and then I believe I have another one here. There's a couple of those mixed throughout this bed. It's pretty full, so I don't know how great they're going to do. I'm trying to keep them cleared out around it so that they can get enough sunlight, because it really does help to have them take off when you give them proper sunlight rather than them being shaded out. Now we're going to go ahead and move over this way. Here we have a bunch of marigolds that are just growing in the pathway. So I am going to just pull those up. I may replant them, or they might go in the compost. There's enough marigolds growing that I am really not concerned about it. And then here we have a great big patch of little ground cherries. So these are pineapple ground cherries, I do believe. Or they might be Aunt Molly's. Oh gosh, I can't remember now. But this, so that one was perfectly ready. Once they get like that and fall off, then you can just kind of take the husk off of there. It'll be thin and papery. And there you go. I do like the taste of these. It's very, very fruity and pineapple-y. But if you open it, there are tons of seeds in there. So that's not for everybody. But you can see why they reseed so easily as well. I could have ate that, but I guess we're going to let it reseed. And then this little patch, this is celosia. So we have some that's beginning to flower here. And then all of these little plants, Those are roselle hibiscus. So all of the hibiscus plants especially are starting to take off. I did just get this bed cleaned out as well about a week ago. It was full of carrots, and I did harvest those seeds, by the way. We got nearly like a 5-gallon bucket of those, so I'll show you that as well. But all throughout here is empty, so I'm going to come through and replant something, probably some zinnias or something that will bloom pretty quickly. And then on this side we have more echinacea, and we have some honeybees that really love to hang out. And then behind the echinacea here we have mugwort. So at the beginning of this season I was cutting it back to keep it from going to seed, but I'm just going to let some of the seeds develop and I'll collect those as well. I am a serial seed collector. So if you are into lucid dreaming or trying to get like psychic dreams, anything in that kind of realm, mugwort is a really great plant to have. I love this one. And then here we have some echinacea that spilled over, and then we did before have cilantro, which I left to go to seed, and I collected coriander from it. So I didn't do that on video, of course. It's been a wild month, but I'll show you the little jar that I got from it. And then here a sage plant, which I did come through and trim. You can see the center is looking a little raggedy, but it was looking pretty nice before. I guess I should have done a before and after, but oh well. And then here, this marigold, you can see that it's beginning to spill over as well. And then a lot of this growth is looking pretty sad, but you can see we have new growth that's coming in. So these leaves, they'll just kind of eventually drop off and mulch the ground there. I'm not too concerned about it, but I will come through and prune everything again before the season is over with. Oh, and I did actually forget to mention that I cut back this patch of echinacea. It was the height of this one, but as you can see, that will not be a problem. They produce lots of new growth at the stems, and then even actually at each segment here. I feel like I talk about echinacea a lot when I do these garden tours. So a lot has changed since the last time we've been in here. I've been trying to keep it under control, but certain things made it and certain things did not. So we'll start here at the melon patch, which is doing really well. Just the other day I did come through and try and contain everything. It was spilling over and climbing into the tomatoes. So I don't think that the next time I plant melons that I'm going to plant them anywhere close to the tomatoes, because it's kind of a pain once they start getting tangled up to try and pull everything apart. But it's definitely doable. So here at the beginning, we've got our Walton butternut squash. You can see we've got some developing. Lots of flowers down through here. And then we've got some patches of marigolds. And then the tomatoes, so probably about the first couple of weeks or so, I was able to keep them trimmed. But after that, it was just raining so much, which is actually good. I haven't had to water the garden at all this season, which is a blessing. But you can see we have some Roma tomatoes here, and that one's starting to blush. But a lot of the tomatoes are just now beginning to really produce to where I can pick them. but I did run out of twine, so I've got to get some more of that and come through and try and get these standing up more. What do we have here? So these are orange Jubilee tomatoes next in line. I've gotten a couple of those and they are a pretty good size. So I haven't cut into one yet because I think the first two I've gotten were just yesterday. So we're still waiting on those, but they're very gorgeous and they get to a good size. And then we're going to come over to this side. These are the red zebra tomatoes. I thought that both of these died out, but I have at least one plant here and you see how gorgeous these are. So they will turn red and they'll keep the striping. So it'll be red tomato, and I believe that it will eventually turn to like a yellow-orange striping once it's ripe. Then we have some basil, which I need to harvest. What do we have here? Licorice basil. Not certain what this tomato is. We'll find out. And then we have ground cherries, which are a great trap crop. You can see I've got all kinds of holes here, but the tomato plants are looking great. And I almost missed it. We've got our first sunflower bloom. You guys, I did it. This is the first year I've had sunflowers, or at least a sunflower. So down here, this popped up before I planted any of my squash plants. So I'm thinking that this is a volunteer from one of the previous years, which the only butternut squash that I planted then I think was the butter bush. So that might be what this one is. It's really similar to the honey nut, at least in size. And then here we have some Marmande tomatoes. These look really neat when you cut into them. And they have a nice flavor. It's honestly a lot like a German pink or something similar to it. I wasn't sure that I was going to like these because it was described as a stuffing tomato, so I thought it was going to be, you know, a lot of like juicy stuff in the middle, or gel, whatever you want to call it. But they are actually pretty solid. They make a pretty good slicing tomato. So they're a new favorite. And they honestly seem really productive so far to add something else in there. And then right here we have some lime basil. And then here we have some Hungarian heart tomatoes. These are supposed to be really great for paste tomatoes. I've grown these a couple of times in the past and I've gotten a couple of tomatoes from them. I really like the taste and the quality of them. But usually I will get like blossom end rot, which was probably not any fault of the tomato. I'm sure it was where it was planted and how much water it was getting. But these are looking really good so far. And you can see that they've got pretty nice sized fruits on them. So this is like the size of my hand. And they've still got some growing to do. You see, I need to come through and trim off some of this stuff as well. I had some yellow pear tomatoes down through here as well. Somehow I missed them. But anyway, here we have some lemon basil that's starting to go to seed. And then next we have the Cherokee purple tomatoes. I've got one of those sitting in there on my counter now. Like I said, everything is just now starting to produce. And then down through here, I'll try to remember where I put everything. So here we have pumpkins. I believe that these were the fairy tale pumpkins. And then these two spots here, I had sugar pie pumpkins. And then also, what was the other? The other was winter luxury pumpkin. So I didn't have all of the seeds for those pop up, so I ended up coming through and planting a couple of loofah plants in here as well. So I'm not sure what's where at this point, but I'll be able to figure it out once the fruit starts coming in. And then down this way, we have some sugar baby watermelons. And I believe other than that, on the end, we have the butternut squash. I don't think I missed anything, but I wouldn't be surprised. So from there, we will move to this back fence line. You can see everything starting to trail up it nicely. These are Kajari melons. Through here as well. And then here we have some honey nut squash. They're starting to come in now. And then here we have some lemon drop watermelons. Oh, I had a branch fall down from this tree, and the fence caught it. It fell right over top of this stuff. It was so close to getting just completely smushed. The branch is actually right there. I need to get it out. It's probably dried out enough that I can lift it. But it was stuck on the fence, and it saved it. And then here we have some acorn squash. Armenian cucumbers, and then China jade cucumber down at the end, which I've got to keep watching this stuff. It was kind of a bad idea to plant anything around this elderberry tree because it keeps trying to use it and climb up it, which I guess I need to come through and stake this elderberry tree up anyway. It keeps trying to fall the other way even without the stuff dragging it. But everything is growing well nonetheless. We've got some weeds that I need to come through and pull. And here we've got blackberries. I did leave these berries on here just to kind of see. They're taking forever to ripen. I'm not sure if they're going to. So we've got Chester thornless blackberries and then triple crown blackberries. So these ones are coming out of there like crazy. Which this side gets a little bit more sunlight, so it's probably not anything to do with the variety. And then this one is also more shaded, and I left berries on it. So don't fault that plant. That one was all me. They're not getting eat up too terribly bad. I've got a couple of spots. The June bugs really came through and did a number on stuff. And then here we've got a mulberry tree and another one on the end. Squash plants. So this is, we've got a patty pan squash here. Let's see, I see one coming in. Where'd it go? I've gotten a couple from these and they're pretty nice. It's a lot like yellow squash to me, honestly. Here we go on the other end. So here's what they look like. They can get a lot bigger, up to about, I think, 2 to 4 pounds. But they're better if you get them younger. It's like any other squash. You don't want to let it keep going. There's some more. So far, all of the squash, the plants look pretty great. I've had a couple of them that the squash bugs got to, but overall, the foliage, I've never had squash plants that look this good. It is more of a partial shaded area over here, and there are tons of flowers. We haven't, like I said earlier, everything is just now starting to come into production. So I've gotten a couple of squash off of this one, and I've gotten a few more of the yellow crookneck. It's the first one to produce. So I think that this one, what is this? They're all mixed up. So there we've got a yellow crookneck squash, and then I believe that this one's probably going to be like a Coselle or the Italian Palermo, one of those two zucchinis. Which I will say, none of the zucchinis have put out any squash, only the patty and the yellow. But I'm sure that they're shortly behind. I don't think that there's anything else that's really worth mentioning in here. The squash kind of took over and shaded out most of the other beds because I did not come through and trim everything like I was planning on. I don't know how you guys have been faring with your weather, but I'm in North Carolina, and there for a while we were getting rained like every day for like a month. That's what it felt like anyway. And it was like a lot of rain. Okay, here we have more ground cherries, which these are kind of everywhere. They're just growing like weeds. Red heritage raspberries. More ground cherries. And then we're going to go around. Okay, so we're on the other side of the squash bed now. And over here we have some zinnias. Most of the other flowers didn't come up or they got choked out when they were trying to, but the zinnias pushed through. And I did actually pull out a squash plant that got taken over by squash bugs from here too. So that gave it a lot more light. We've got more zinnias coming out. And then I have a blueberry plant here, which I'm glad is still doing pretty decent considering it was getting not very much light. And then we have a cozelle squash here. You can see that center there. How you know that you've got squash bugs or some kind of vine borer. And then up here we have another crookneck yellow squash and then zucchini. When all of these squash plants do start producing, I think I might end up being overrun by squash. I've never actually had really good luck with it because every single year the squash bugs get to it. But it looks like since this is a new spot, they didn't know where to find it this year. And so I've got a little bit of a jump. And then on this end, we have more heritage red raspberries. I have some weeds that are growing up in there. And I didn't even go over any of the herbs. So here I have a comfrey plant that is beginning to go to seed. So I am going to let it go to seed and collect those. Well, I say seed, it's going to flower and then produce seeds. I'm jumping the gun there a little bit. And then here we have some spearmint, which is not doing so hot. So I think I'm actually going to dig up like this and some of the oregano and other herbs that I have planted in here and put them into pots to where they can get more light and things like that. Like here we have horehound that's growing through there, and you would never even know it. It just looks like a weed with everything else. But honestly, this is like a really good environment to keep your pest under control and invite good pollinators and those bugs that are going to eat the bad pests. So it's well rounded in here except for mosquitoes. They're taking over. You need mosquito hawks or something in here. And then we have pepper plants as well. So I think that this is a jalapeno, or maybe that's a jalapeno. What is this one? This one is a Corno de Toro. And then I have a couple of shishito pepper plants here, which I grabbed a handful of peppers off of yesterday. So this is the first pepper plant to produce. But it does get a direct streak of sunlight in the afternoon as well as some sunlight in the morning. So it is getting a little bit more light than some of the other things. And then all along this back side of the fence, I did plant some green beans. And it looks like a few of them came up. I've got a couple of vines that are already up the fence here. And then some others that are making their way there. So I might do a second planting, but I think that I would prefer to maybe just get some bush beans if I'm going to do that. And then here we have some mystery pepper plants. I have no idea what these are going to be yet. The peppers haven't developed, but we've got flowers. And more pepper plants. So most likely what has happened here is where I didn't have a lot of my pepper plants or seeds germinate, I dumped the cups back into the compost. So I've got patches of peppers here. So it's going to be a surprise. And then we have a tomato. This is probably going to be like a large cherry tomato. Those are one of the first tomatoes that I ever started growing, and that was like 4 to 5 years ago. So they come up everywhere now, and you'll see I have another patch up front. Tomatoes, and these are volunteer tomatoes on this side. And then here we have, I believe that this is probably going to be an alphabet cucumber, and then I have Boston pickling cucumbers on this side. But they might both be Boston pickling cucumbers, because I planted half of this, the Boston, and then this other half, the alphabet. But as you can see, that's a pretty blank spot, so that's most likely going to be the Boston pickling cucumber. But as you can see, they're just making their way right on up that fence. And over the top, I keep having to direct it back down. Oh, and a side note, I did actually plant nasturtium all throughout here, and I don't think a single one of those seeds came up, so that was kind of disappointing, but it's okay. Do I have any baby cucumbers on here yet? And we got the flowers. Another week or two, we'll be able to see the baby cucumbers. And then this whole section, I planted in golden Jenny melons, which are basically just mini cantaloupes. So I've got one vine that's made it up the fence, producing lots of flowers, and then several more plants that have come up, and they're just about, so I need to redirect those up the fence. That is the only thing whenever you're going near the chicken wire. You just got to make sure that you kind of put it onto it. So you see all of the vining plants like this, they have these little tendrils, and they will grab on and wrap onto this stuff or anything that's close to it and climb up it. So as long as you get that near it, you're good to go. So we cleaned up this front bed here, and then I came through and planted some loofah. So I had a few plants planted all the way down, but a couple of them didn't make it, but the rest of them are looking really good. I actually need to start pulling this up the fence here. It looks like it's running that way. So that happened very quick. And then down here, I've got a whole patch of tomatoes. So these are volunteer tomatoes. I think that they're all the large cherry tomatoes. And there's probably like 10 tomato plants here. I've not staked any of these up or done anything to them. But as you can see, we've got lots of tomatoes growing. There's some that I accidentally left on there. You can see that's a pretty good size one. I need to go through this patch and pull the tomatoes that are rotting off of there, because they just take energy from the plant, which honestly doesn't look like it's taking much energy. But you'll remove those and it'll help the other fruit on there ripen faster. So you'll just want to keep that picked, and if you want to stay on top of it, you can pick it when it looks like that, when it's just starting to blush, and it'll change colors later. And I find that they do taste just as good, usually. Alright, well, I think that that's pretty much it for all of the garden and plant updates. So now I'll show you all of the crafts and drying stuff that we've been working on. So update number 1, lots of herb drying. So back here I've got lemongrass, rosemary. This is all sage. And then I have some dill here. And I actually have a whole nother section of dill drying somewhere else. I had tons of it to cut down. So I don't even know what I'm going to do with all of that, but I'm going to keep it. And then we have echinacea. And on down the line here, I have mugwort. Now, just some of the seeds that we've collected. Now, earlier in the season, I collected these arugula seeds. You can see that they've dried out nicely. Pods will just snap right off of there. And then here we have carrot seeds. So these ones are a little bit green and less well produced and dried out than the others, but I figured that I'd save them anyway and give it a try. You can see the seed does look like it's fully developed, but it's not fully dried on the plant. Whereas a lot of these others were. I think the carrot seeds look really unsettling. And then they also stick to you. More dill. So next on our update list is a kind of craft item. So if some of y'all seen, I rendered a whole bunch of tallow. It was like 40 pounds to begin with, and I think I ended up with like 15 pounds of tallow. So I made soap to begin with. So this one, don't look at the names, I'm still working on them. But here we have, this one is oat. It's got like colloidal oats, oat milk, what else? Honey and aloe, as well as tallow and all of the other oils. I think for the oils, I did a mix of tallow, olive oil, and shea butter. I think that was it for this one. And then next here, I did a coffee flavored one, and I tried to do like a design with some swirls and stuff. I was actually really proud of how this one came out. And I even DIY'd the mold for it. So this is a oatmeal box. And you just line it with parchment paper whenever you go to pour the mixture into it. I've wrapped it with fabric just because. So back to this soap. This is a coffee version, and you can see I did like some little DIY banana slices. I melted down the oat soap in like a hot batch after it was produced, and then got crafty and made banana slices. But anyway, this one has like the coffee, banana. It even has some cocoa powder. That's what these darker stripes are. And then for the oils, it has tallow, coconut oil, shea butter, olive oil, did I say that? And then rosehip oil. So the smell of this one is actually like a really good combo. So it has like the coffee, banana, and rosehip oil, which all kind of balance out and go for like a decent smell for what I'm going for with it, like a banana coffee type deal. But anyway, the cocoa powder definitely made the rosehip oil smell stick for sure. And then next, so these little white soaps, these are actually some of the white mixture that I had left over. Oh, and I forgot to mention I have coconut milk in these as well. So these are coconut milk, and then it has all of the other oils in it, the same oils. So rosehip, tallow, olive oil, shea butter, all of that. So these two, I think, probably have like another week to cure. I'll have to double check on the date. But this one is cured, and I actually really, really like these homemade soaps. So about 6 months ago, I made these soaps and then forgot about them. They were just sitting on a shelf. And these are okay. I did like a lot of castor oil. So these are like a little bit softer and tacky feeling. And I think I even... So So the last craft that I've really been working on was actually this outfit. So this is kind of, I guess you could say, like a whimsy goth cottagecore type inspiration. I don't know what everybody's calling it now, but I made this from like a skirt, and then the rest is kind of patchwork. So if you are also interested in seeing how to make this or something similar to it, follow along, because I'm gonna be making like a teal version next, I think. So I have like a couple of things that I'm probably gonna change up. I might end up closing this up just a little bit more, and then there's like a couple of other changes that I'll make. Like with the skirt, you probably wouldn't notice if I tell you, or if I didn't tell you, but this is actually sewed on upside down, or I guess whichever you could say, but the bands do not match. So here you can see we have like this color, this color, this color. On the skirt, it starts this color, this color, this color. We've got a few mistakes like that, but honestly, like, I'm really happy with how this turned out. So I'm going to do lots more thrift flips. I'm on kind of a sewing binge. So like I said, I'm going to do like a mint green teal version of this next, or something similar to it. That's all of the updates and the garden tour. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. If you are interested in any of like the crafty stuff that I mentioned, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because I will be providing tutorials. Anyway, I appreciate you guys, and I hope that you have a great day. Bye!